I'm Scott Malevsky, and this is Interviews with Me.
Oh, Maine, your rivers, your back roads claim me.
This week, Scott Magoon.
Be brave. So much keeps us back. Fear keeps us back so much.
Yeah.
And keeps us from truly enjoying life, from truly enjoying relationships, trying new things, whatever you want to call it.
Because everyone has a story. My next guest, I've personally known for over 27 years. We first met at Northeastern University as suite mates and as the only two Scots in the entire dorm. Hailing from Skowhegan, or is it Cornville?
It's technically Cornville.
Technically, it is Cornville.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I never understood the line between Skowhegan and Cornville.
Well, it's where the tar changes. It's where the road gets bumpy. I didn't know you hit Cornville.
or the tar goes away. Right?
Yes, sir.
Hailing from Skowhegan, he has worked as a designer and has himself become a successful children's book author/illustrator of over 25 books, such as Hugo and Miles, I've Painted Everything, one of my daughter's favorites,
Thank you.
The Boy Who Cried Bigfoot, Spoon, and his most recent illustration, Rescue and Jessica, A Life-Changing Friendship, a book about the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, and has another illustration coming out next year, which is Straw, which is like the trilogy ending of Spoon, Chopstick, and
Straw.
Straw.
The last
Excellent.
straw.
So please welcome Scott Magoon.
Hey, there's people welcoming me. Hello. Thanks for
Anybody who
having me.
knows Scott is not going to be surprised by this
Oh, my
conversation.
gosh. First of all, is it Chuck or Scott? Because I've been calling you Chuck for like 30 years.
I have, holdovers who
I
still
love
call
them
me
both.
Chuck, but most
Yeah.
people don't, so I hardly ever hear Chuck anymore. So
Okay. Chuck it is.
for those of you listening, it was
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
nickname in school.
Oh my gosh.
So you grew up in Cornville.
I did.
Talk
I
to me
did.
about growing
Oh
up
my
in
gosh.
Cornville.
Oh man. Well, we moved there from New Hampshire. I was born in the Boston area. My dad was from.
Oh, so you're not born in Maine?
no.
Oh,
No.
black strike against
I
you
know
right
one
there.
of them people from the flatland.
From away.
Yes, sir. But my dad was from Cornville, and
Okay, that counts then.
yeah, and
All right.
my
We'll grandfather you in.
Thanks. And so we moved up there probably when I was in after fifth grade up into sixth grade is when we moved up to Cornville.
Yep.
And yeah, we had a great old farmhouse. We had this gigantic barn. It was my grandfather's farmhouse and barn, my
Wow.
grandparents. Yeah. Gosh, I remember moving up there that summer. It was just this golden, hot, dry summer when we got there. And I was so excited to take advantage of the barn and all the cool things you could climb on in this old wooden barn and the fields that went on forever and ever and ever. It was just tremendous. And then school started. And then, and what good can come of that really from a, sixth grader going to meet other middle schoolers?
Oh,
Brand new,
it's hell.
not know. Oh God, it was difficult. It could have been so much worse. It was okay. It was an adjustment, as it would have been for anyone going to any new school. And I know many people have had it so much worse, but it was an adjustment. I went to the Margaret Chase Smith Elementary School right there in Skowhegan.
Okay. Excellent.
The famous Margaret Chase Smith, mentioned by some of your recent guests.
Yep.
She would actually Margaret Chase Smith would come to our school from time to time and
awesome.
present us with various awards.
Nice.
I think there was a student of the year she would come and present and, talk to us then. It was such an honor. And of course, as young students, we didn't really appreciate all that she had done and all she'd achieved. But now I look back and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was hanging out with Margaret Chase Smith. It was pretty neat.
What about siblings? How many siblings do you have?
I have two brothers that I know about.
I'm sure your parents will appreciate
Yes,
that.
no, they're two brothers, both younger. They were both right there with me on all those outdoor adventures up there in Cornville and Skowhegan, and went through the same schools I did. They started the schools younger, of course, when they moved to Maine. So while it was an adjustment for them too, I think that they were able to kind of mix in a little more readily. I was just at such an awkward age. It was great having them to grow up with them. My brother Zach still lives in Maine. He lives in Portland. And my youngest brother, Ethan, was a Mainer for many years until recently he moved to Texas with his wife. She's from Texas.
Now, tell me about your parents. So, first of all, your dad's
Yeah.
from Cornville. How did he leave? How did he meet your mom?
Oh my gosh.
Come on, we're diving into it.
Chuck, this is like the stuff of family legend. I mean, my dad served in Vietnam in the army. He was drafted towards the end of the war, 69, 70. I guess that's kind of like mid-war at that point. He came back and found that his girlfriend had dumped him, verklempt, and but not deterred. He went on various road trips, and one of them was to Ogunquit. That's where he met my mom, right there on the beach.
So your mom's from Ogunquit?
My mom is from Wakefield, Massachusetts, not
wow.
far from where we are right now. Yeah, and she was up there for the day. They were just met on the beach, and the rest is a mystery, really. 9 months later, here I am. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't think it was quite that rapid, but that's how they met. Gosh, they got married and they lived here in Massachusetts for a couple of years. I'm trying to think. Andover, Haverhill. We moved to southern New Hampshire, Hudson for, I don't know, several years, 7 or 8 years. And from there, we went to the Ville, to Cornville.
And back up to Cornville.
Yeah.
So parents still alive?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. They're still up in Cornville, right in that same little spot on the hill.
So tell me about your mom.
Oh my gosh. My mom is the creative force in our family. I think my dad is too, but my mom, she's a fellow left-handed person. I'm a lefty. She's a lefty. And I think I just kind of channeled a lot of that creative fire that she had. She was a florist for years and years, as her mom was before her. Her sense of humor, I think I inherited that as well. You know, she's big on puns. My dad is too, but I think it mostly comes from mom. Oh my God. One of the happiest things for me, and you hear this from comedians, so maybe I missed my calling, but one of the happiest things for me was making my mom laugh, and seeing her laugh at my goofy jokes was just, I mean, that's why I made jokes. She made me laugh. I like to make her laugh. We still try to make each other laugh. Yeah, I mean, she's just a hoot. Very creative, very outdoors, loves the outdoors. She gets outside every chance she can. Of course, this time of year it's tough with all of the many feet of snow that they're wrestling with, but she loves gardening. She has these amazing flower, plant, vegetable gardens throughout the summer.
Being creative, is that your favorite thing about your mom, or is there something else?
I think so. I mean, I just so admired that and wanted to capture that in my own life, and I think it's really come through in my work. Yeah. It's probably some deep-seated need to, make my mom proud of the work that I do. And my dad too. I was
going to say, what about your dad?
Yeah, well, we were talking about mom. My dad's also a very creative man. He is musically inclined. He played guitar for us and sang for us growing up, which I could not cherish that more. He'd drag out his guitar. He was in a band called the Missing Links back in the 60s. And I think it was before he went to Vietnam, and he would play at Sugarloaf, actually, among other places. Anyway, so he'd bring the guitar out and he'd play for us, sing along for us some songs, and we would sing along with him. And I really think that that's where my love for music and singing comes from. My mom was big into music. Her dad was big into music as well. He played the organ and would put on these great old albums, especially at Christmas time. And fortunately, both sides had this musical love. So my dad also is very handy, loves to build things out of wood. For example, he made his own kayak, for example. He will make home repairs around the house.
That's a little more than like making a birdhouse.
It is, although he's been known for many a birdhouse. What else does he do? I mean, you name it. Oh, and he made this amazing apple cider press last year.
Wow.
And so he's been pressing the apples that are up on the hill every fall. And not only do we get the fresh cider, but he'll also let it ripen a little bit. And if you know what I mean.
So do we have a Magoon hard cider in the
no, because I drank it all.
What's your favorite family tradition?
Oh, God. There's so many. We did one where it's so funny. It kind of sounds so strange, but it's so funny. My dad, in addition to being handy with building things, he's also handy with machines and engines. And as such, over the years, we would have, how do I put this? You remember in Star Wars, Luke, he would always have like the kind of the junkiest equipment, and like nothing really worked well, and it was kind of beat up. That was our house. We had like the old land speeders and the stuff that needed some TLC, and my dad loved fixing up machines. And so, long story short, we got this snowmobile that never, ever ran. And when it did, you would never shut it off. You would let it run all day just so you could ride the darn thing, because you were so lucky to have that thing running. It's like, don't shut it off.
You didn't have like a multitude of cars in your backyard.
No, didn't. Okay. No. My mom would have been just like, get that thing out of here. And we all would have, but we brothers would have been too. It's like, Dad, please. No, it wasn't that bad. We had lots of machines that needed some some TLC and tricks to get started or keep running. Anyway, so our tradition was to read this classified ad that we wrote, that my brother Zach wrote. It is so funny. It's a joke. It's a classified ad written about this piece of junk snow machine, and it tries to make it sound good, right? It's like, once it starts, don't shut it off. You know, it needs a few skis. You know, it's like all these different. I wish I could think of it. I wish I had it here, but so my brother Zach will.
You can't tease us with this.
I know. Well, I wish I had it. I'll maybe we can do like an addendum to the podcast after I get it or something. I can read it to you later, and I'll send you an MP3.
There you go.
You can edit it in. Insert here. The tradition is that at Christmas time, when we gather together, Zach, my brother who wrote this thing, sits down and he'll sometimes put on one of those Mad Bomber hats or, you know, some kind of, you know, the red checkered jacket, you know, some kind of Tim Sample or, you know, Bob Marley type outfit.
Yep.
He'll read this thing in a dramatic way and read this ad. And, you know, we're all just howling because we're remembering all those nutty, broken down machines that we had over the years. But of course, you know, it brought us together. We have a good laugh about it now. And, oh man, I wonder what happened to that thing. That would have been a classic. It was like a 1974 Arctic Cat.
Holy cow.
With like the leopard print on the seat and, you know, the purple label on the side. And
probably still in the barn.
yes, probably up there still. No, actually that was the one I had the ad about it was a yellow one, and it was a Ski-Doo. And it was just, yeah, both of them were pretty bad, but
it was a great time.
It was so fun. Yeah. And, yeah, like I said, we read it last Christmas and it was a hoot. So that's one of our famous traditions. That was a long answer.
Did you have any favorite relatives growing up? I mean, you probably made the trip between Wakefield and Cornville quite a bit. So
we did. I loved all my relatives. They were all such personalities.
Not like Weird Uncle Mike.
No, not like Weird Uncle Big Mean Mike, one of my books. Yeah. No, they were all lovely and, you know, very personable, very good to us and made us laugh, took the time to talk to us when we saw them. And my grandparents, both sets of grandparents were wonderful. They would each kind of share their own worlds with us as much as they could. My mom's parents were in, you know, the Massachusetts area, so they would share with us, you know, some common Massachusetts experiences and, you know,
which isn't that far away.
No. And my dad's folks would share with us, you know, everything up in Cornville that we would later move to and experience for ourselves firsthand. So I think I was just so grateful to have both sets of grandparents kind of show us their respective worlds and their histories, and it was great.
So barring a new day at school, or
yes.
a new starting at school, what was a perfect day for you when you were a kid?
Right. Oh, gosh. There were so many.
I mean, you look back now and you appreciate them.
Right.
Again, you didn't necessarily appreciate them then, but
right.
looking back now,
so
what would have been a perfect
day? Oh my gosh. We were so lucky. We had so many great days. I think back then, if you asked me back then, perfect day would have been like a whole day at the Skowhegan State Fair.
Well, yeah.
After the Midway opened.
After the Midway opened,
you know, 12 o'clock, the Midway opens. You get there, you're going to go down the Midway. You get your fried dough.
I can confirm that.
Oh God, you can still smell it in the fries.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, Stan's Fries, all the fried dough places, the barkers yelling at you to do their goofy games, but you loved it. It was I can still smell it and taste it and hear it and see it in my mind's eye, and we loved that fair. I mean, it was the one. First of all, summers there were just epic. And to be able to just kind of scoot over to the fairgrounds, which is very close to Cornville, as you know. It was like the world came to Skowhegan. I mean, this was like we had the concerts going. We had Boz Skaggs appearing at the grandstand and Sidecar Willie, whatever his name was, Boxcar Willie, Sidecar Willie. You know, then you had the horse racing, which I didn't really get to. You had everything. Bingo. you had the flower show with my friend was the flautist there. She would play in the little. If everybody remembers the flute player there, she's a good friend of mine. Jenny Obie was like the flute player there for years and years. Gosh, what else was so amazing there? The rides, man. The rides were awesome. I mean,
did you have any friends who did like 4-H stuff in the exhibition hall?
Probably. We could go to there and we'd check out everything in there, and you know, the photography exhibits and the quilting and the canned goods, the pies that would look, you know, worse and worse as the 2 weeks went on. You know, by the time the fair was over, those things were ready to like start walking. It was like they've become another life form at that point. You know, it's like, I don't know if any of my friends did the 4-H. I like to think that they did. I mean, exotic animals, alligators, elephants, I think were there, tigers. I mean, stuff that it was like the world came to Skowhegan. It was amazing. So spending a day there was really, if you had asked me at any point, it's like, let's go to the fair. One story I have to share with you, which I tell my wife all the time. She's like, I know, you've told me this story so many times. To help pay our way into the fair, because you had to pay for the rides.
Right.
They weren't part of your general admission fee. You had
and they changed it later on. You know, you buy a bracelet and then you get on there.
Right.
But yeah, you'd have to buy all these tickets for the rides.
And they weren't cheap.
You could spend like
$5,000. Yeah.
on the tickets, and you get 3 rides. Yeah.
Yeah. And the rides weren't long. We would pick raspberries. We had raspberry bushes in our yard next to the barn. My folks say, pick some raspberries. We'll put them out. Sure enough, we put a sign out at the end of the road. And this is way the heck down on 150. I mean, this is like a good mile and a half drive off the main road just to get some raspberries. And I'm like, oh my gosh, people are actually coming to buy these things. And we would sell a half pint for $1.50 and a quart for $3. And
it's a steal.
I'm telling you, it was a good deal. They were amazing raspberries. No artificial enhancing, GMOs.
No pesticides.
No pesticides, none of that jazz. And people would buy them, and we would have like good amount of pocket change, pocket money to go and spend at the fair. And it was like, how cool is that? I love that my parents made me do that. And it was just, we had to earn our way. And what a lovely way to enjoy the summer, enjoy the literal fruits around us that were there for the taking, and turning it into a resource that, granted, it's not like we were donating the money to charity, but maybe we were. It was to the fair.
Barkers need to make a living.
I know it. Gosh, that was pretty much my perfect day back then.
So, what was the worst thing you did growing up?
I did so many dumb things. I accidentally had a BB gun. I accidentally shot a frog in front of my brother. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot. I'm just going to shoot next to him. Of course, I hit the frog right between the eyes. My brother was horrified. I was too. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
So no marksmanship badge for you.
It was the stupidest thing. I'm like, I'm just going to get right next to him. And of course, right through his head. I'm sure my brother remembers this. It was so traumatizing.
How has your life been different than you imagined it would be?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, I saw that question ahead of time. I had to think about this one. Gosh, I think that there's the the change in people in my life, and the people that you think are going to be with you when you first start out, growing up. It's like, oh yeah, we'll be hanging out when we're 90 years old. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't come to pass. It may not come to pass. It may yet. Who knows? We may reconnect. But I think that complete sea change of people that you know and hang out with and consider your closest friends, I think that's really different. Like, oh my gosh. I'm so surprised by the absolute change in who I know, but I'm also surprised at the absolute constants. The family that I still have in my life, my brothers, my parents, until recently, my grandmother, my cousins. That's been great. And having that connection, I'm surprised that has just been as strong as it has been.
I'm going to transition a little bit from childhood more into school and life and things like that.
Whatever you want, my friend.
When you were in high school, what did you want to be? I think you always knew you wanted to be a writer of some kind.
I think I did.
How did high school help prepare you for that? Did it prepare you for that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I knew I always wanted to be some kind of a writer. or some kind of public appearance person. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how that would have manifested itself. And so to now do what I do as a full-time author, illustrator, who does school visits and who speaks in front of audiences regularly, it's like, oh my gosh, everything kind of just fell into place. And, looking back, you can kind of see how it came to be. But in the time, like when you're in high school, you're like, what is this? What is this mess?
So talk to me about that timeline a little bit. You graduate from high school.
Yeah.
What made you choose Northeastern?
I really wanted to get to Boston. I'd seen enough. No, I'd seen enough of it. I'd seen enough of Maine. I'd seen enough of Boston in my travels, as I was saying, with my mom's folks, and knew that the Boston school experience, college experience, was pretty unique, and that there are so many colleges in Boston. I think there's something like 40 schools in Boston or some crazy thing. The Athens of America, they like to call it. The draw to Boston was there, and I just applied to a couple schools in Boston, and Northeastern was one of them, and they were one of the few that let me in. I couldn't get in there now. The school, have you seen like how they're doing now? It's top, 50
So
schools.
what was your major when you went to Northeastern? Was it English?
Yeah, no, it was journalism. Started as a journalism major. So you can see I was trying to get back into the writing world, and I didn't know if I wanted to be print, broadcast. There was no online media at that point, really. Right. It's funny because we just started to get online. I don't know about you, but Northeastern was my first email address.
Yes.
My first email account. And it was magic being able to hop on in a computer lab.
Being able to email with other people. I remember Rob Leslie.
Yes.
Remember Rob, if you're listening, I hope you're listening. He introduced me to the online chat
IRC
with
chat?
other people, the IRC.
Yeah.
He goes, Scott, come take a look at this.
Amazing.
I'm chatting with somebody in like Chicago or something like that.
Yeah, right.
I was floored.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this is going to be huge.
I didn't see that part of it. I just got the email, and to be able to quickly drop a line to friends wherever they were for free. It's so funny because you think back, wow, I had to get up, trudge across campus, wait for a computer to be free. But back in the day, I mean, it was just deluxe to have a lab, let alone, access.
Journalism major.
Yeah.
Northeastern.
Yeah.
You get through journalism. You know.
Well, no, I dropped out of journalism 2 years in.
Okay.
Because
Take me through the rest of that.
Yeah. I wanted to I loved the reading and the writing I was doing, less so the more practical journalism stuff. And I figured, well, you know what, maybe I have to just change to English and just really immerse myself in that world and have just a very large, open, liberal arts education.
Well, and I knew you were going to be
Yeah.
into something at that point because you were very much into one of your big artists was Sting.
Oh, yeah.
And he pulled from Shakespeare a lot.
He did.
You were a huge fan of Shakespeare. And
I was.
all that literature.
Oh, my gosh. You remember this?
I remember that.
Now I'm going to have to quote some, and I'm like, oh, God, you're putting me on the spot.
No, not at all.
This shining water has no mud. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Moving on
Yes.
to, you decided on English, and then what?
Yes, decided on English. I loved it. I was such a great fit for me personally because just like I said, we read everything. We started way back with Homer. We moved into Bible. We read the Old Testament, New Testament. We read Virgil. We read Shakespeare, obviously, Milton. I mean, all of that stuff that when would you ever have a chance to read it critically, unpack it, all that poetry we read.
Oh, I remember you coming home like completely passionate about Ozymandias.
Oh my God! Wow,
Holy
how do you
cow.
remember this?
And you're like, dude, you got to read this. This
Yeah.
is awesome. And you were like, I've never seen someone so excited
That's
about
so
a book.
funny. That's so funny. I remember that. I have no recollection of that. Isn't it Ozymandias?
I don't know.
I don't either. I got to go
You
back.
say it however you want.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a good fit. But I will say too that I missed drawing and I missed that artistic, graphic aspect of my passions, my interests. And so should I tell them about this? Yeah, I had a comic strip in college. I answered the call. It was an open call in the Northeastern News.
That was big.
It was big.
We all remember that.
Do you really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. They had a contest for a comic strip in the Northeastern News once a week. And so I came up with this idea. It was based on classmates' character idea. It was not an original character idea. I totally ripped it off from this guy, Monty. Monty, if you're listening, thank you. With his blessing, I might add. Came up with this character called Duct Tape Man. And he fixes everything. He's essentially Spider-Man only with duct tape. Really, that's all he is. His alter ego is Cecil Armstrong, and he has all of the usual. Again, it's like a Peter Parker Spider-Man. But I would try to comment on what was going on at Northeastern at the time and in Boston at the time. You know, I remember there was some attacks in the Fens. Duct Tape Man was trying to fight or find the person who was attacking men in the Fenway, and it was just, you know, I tried to pull in all different aspects of our life at Northeastern. I was looking back at some recently. They're kind of silly, but some are actually not bad. And I actually chuckled at some of them, if I do say so myself. They were great fun to do. It wound up being my work study job. I got to do that as my work study job. I also did editorial cartoons on the editorial page. And I was also the editorial page editor for, I don't know, a semester or a quarter, whatever it was. And I have my friend Patrick McGee to thank for that. He was the editor-in-chief at the Northeastern News, still a good friend of mine. He really pulled me into that whole world of drawing for a paycheck, which
that was
awesome.
funny to me because I remember the scattered picture on the wall and remember asking, oh, who drew that? And you're like, well, I did. But beyond that, dude, I had no idea you
That's so funny.
drew or illustrated.
Yeah.
So then when you finally did the
so
comic
funny.
strip, I was like, this guy's got to do something with
That's so
illustrating.
funny.
It's, you know.
That's nice. Thank you. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I had another experience at Northeastern to help pull that in even more was my internship the co-op program at the Boston Globe. And I
remember that.
Oh God, what an amazing experience that was.
That.
In so many
Tell me about
ways.
Who did you get to meet any of
Yeah.
the big legends that work there?
I think so. I mean, well, first of all, I worked in the Sunday department. So I was working with everybody that you would read in the Sunday Globe, the automotive guy, John White. Jerry Morris was the travel editor. I mean, people had been there forever before I got there. I was just another kid who come in. I feel like we had a really great working relationship when I was there. Then I moved on to the editorial design department, and there I worked with just straight up design people, less so editors. But they would let me do, they'd let me do spot drawings, and just so I would be able to build up my portfolio a little bit. Nice. And have just something to show when I left Northeastern. That's what's so great about Northeastern.
The work study, the co-op jobs,
program.
those really...
Yeah. By the time you leave, you can have, I think, up to 2 years of work experience for your resume.
And it doesn't all need to be in one job. It can be in various jobs and
across
various industries.
Across the world. I mean, they're so plugged in over the years that they've got this amazing network. So big thumbs up for that program. Thumbs up for the Globe, because they were so welcoming to every single intern there. We even had to join the union when we were there. It just felt like you were part of the group. Very inclusive. I remember going down to Dan Wasserman's studio. He's the editorial cartoonist still at the Globe, and just showing him my drawings. And he was so kind and so patient and gave a lot of time to look at my drawings, such as they were. And I will never forget that. I'm so grateful for that. I house sat for some people at the Globe when I was there, and it was just a great time, great experience.
You graduated Northeastern.
Yes. Is that where we are at now? We got a lot of ground.
Only where we got a lot of ground.
1995.
You graduate Northeastern. You have the work experience built up.
Yes.
Where do you go from there? I know at one point you ended up at...
Oh, God, where did I go?
Houghton Mifflin.
Yes.
Was that next? What came after Northeastern?
It did not come next. I had a couple of steps between there. I worked for a company called IDG, International Data Group, another incredible group, another group that gave me so many opportunities to fit in, to grow, to travel. They published a 24-hour newswire, IT, information technology newswire, that was internally used by International Data Group, publishers of Computer World, Info World, Macworld back in the day. And we worked for their sort of internal Associated Press, if you will. For example, Macworld couldn't get to a Boston event. We at the news service would cover the event, and our story would feed out into the wire, and Macworld could take that story and run with it in their own publication. It's really neat. Great outfit. Bureaus all over the world. So they let me travel to a couple bureaus under the guise of work. Got to Paris and London, and at least Paris and London I can think of off the top. But that was an incredible experience, and met with those journalists there and saw those towns. And that was right when the internet was starting to come up, Netscape and Microsoft and wars, those browser wars. That was
now
around
you're
that
taking
time.
us back to
man.
Netscape.
It was a special time in the IT world. And then from there, I got into the .com stuff. I mean, that was, all the rage back then. I worked for... I swear it's like the proto Facebook. It was called QuickDot. They were in Waltham, Mass, and I was their web designer. And they were an amazing group as well, very passionate group. We're essentially building this pre-Facebook service where, just like Facebook, you would have a board and you would connect with friends and you could send them messages. It doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles, of course, that Facebook does now, but it really was kind of like this pre-Facebook Facebook. From there, I went to Lycos, worked at their search engine company for a while. And then from there, I went to work for this animation studio in Watertown, Mass called Fablevision. And that's really where it starts to pick up with what I'm doing now with illustrating for young readers. I was given the chance by Peter Reynolds and his group. Peter is a very well-known author and illustrator of picture books and books for young readers. And he had this studio in Watertown when we would do flash animation, we would do web design. What a cool place. I mean, it was just that place that's just covered with toys and, video games, and great music's in the air, but they have this core passion of making great content, stories that matter, stories that really move people, I think was their slogan. It was there that I connected with Peter, and he is, as anybody who knows him, is so magnanimous and just such a big heart when it comes to teaching young people, to giving young people a leg up, giving them a chance to express themselves, being very patient and open with how they choose to express themselves. We hit it off. We had a great relationship, working relationship, friendly relationship. As I worked for that company, I was a contract employee. That contract came to an end. The work kind of ended. And I said, Peter, if you don't have anything for me coming up, I would love for you to give me a nice recommendation to the folks at Candlewick Press. They have a job open right now for a book designer. I would love to work for Candlewick Press. Peter had done Judy Moody books for Candlewick Press.
Yep.
And so we had a great relationship with the people over at Candlewick. And to his credit, much to his credit, and to my undying gratitude, he did just that. He gave Ann Stott, a designer over there, a recommendation for me. And Ann called me up not long after. And then I met Ann for the first time. And it's just one of those times in your life you look back on, like I was saying before, where you can see how it starts to connect. Of course, at the time, I'm like, oh, is this going to work out? They're not going to dig what I'm doing. All those usual.
So it sounds like you had a great relationship with Peter.
I did. What
did you learn from him?
A very good mentor.
Pick one.
I learned to be a good listener. He is good at listening and synthesizing what he hears in his own experience, and kind of just a great amount of encouragement, his own experience, and just like out there, just try this kind of idea, all those things he'll come back at you with. Or he'll just laugh at your joke. He's just that kind of guy where it's a mix of this sort of sage advice, chuckle at your joke, or just, shoot the breeze. What else? He's an amazing artist. He's a very loose artist with his artwork. He can also be very controlled with his art, but I love his artwork best when it's relaxed, expressive. One of my favorite books is called The Dot, and it was published around the time that I was working with him. It's a book about being creative, staying creative, not being afraid of being creative. Really, the premise is to make a mark, make a dot, and see what comes out of that dot. Where does it take you? And it's such it's such a powerful idea. I keep the book on my desk, and I look at it, and it reminds me that I should just make that dot. Darn it.
So you moved to Candlewick, and how long were you there?
I was there about 3 years, and that was...
What were you doing?
I was a book designer there. That was it still is an amazing place. It's a book farm, essentially. Many publishers manufacture books, assemble books. Candlewick sort of grows books. They are out there in the field, tending the field of artists and authors and words and pictures. I know it sounds corny, but they really do take good care, take good time, really nurture their books and their artists and their authors, not just during the process, but afterwards as well, getting the book out into the world and thoughtfully placing the book out into the world and gently pushing on for example, the media outlets that need to be pushed on, or the libraries or the communities that would respond well to books.
So they have their pulse on everything book related. And
I think so. I think so. It's all they do. They are all they do is books for young readers. They may be unique in that regard. I'm not sure, but I think they may be the only publisher in the U.S. that of their size anyway, that exclusively publish books for young readers, as opposed to books for adults and or textbooks, that kind of jazz. So they're just laser focused, for better and for worse. I don't want to, Pollyanna them and make them sound like they're without flaw. They can be so attached and so passionate. They kind of, the forest for the trees kind of, it's like, guys,
but it helps to have just almost one target audience.
I think so.
Too, which is what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. It's very efficient that way. Everything they do is for this one audience. So they've made so many inroads with that audience that it serves them very well. Okay.
What made you decide to change jobs?
I did.
From Candlewick to, was it Houghton Mifflin?
Yeah, it was. Yes, very good. Oh gosh. Well, I loved working at Candlewick. They still are excellent coworkers, and I just had a tremendous experience working with them. But I had reached out. At this point, I was starting to write my own books and try to illustrate my own books. And I had sent a sample to Houghton Mifflin across the river in Boston. Candlewick was in Cambridge at the time. They're in Somerville now. And I reached out to Houghton Mifflin in Boston, and they had me in to talk about this manuscript that I was working on called Hugo and Miles and I've Painted Everything, which is one that you had mentioned. Mm-hmm. They loved it. They signed it up to publish. As I started to work with them on this book, we started to realize, hey, we got a pretty good rapport here. And the creative director at the time, Sheila Smallwood, had an opening for an art director. And she's like, would you ever want to be my art director? I was like, oh my gosh. It was sort of the next step up from where I was. Actually, a couple steps above from where I was at Candlewick. So it was a real nice opportunity. And I couldn't pass it up. Sheila was good enough to offer it to me. And Candlewick, I think they completely understood. And they were very supportive as they can be. Yep. And so I made the leap. And I went over there. And I was at Houghton for 12 years. That was a good run. That was fun.
Yeah, you were there when we reconnected.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
We went to the Apple store on lunch break. Remember that?
Yes. So what made you decide, obviously you had a great run at Houghton Mifflin and
I
loved
did.
it and got some great experience.
Absolutely.
What was the deciding factor to make you go out on your own?
Well, I had been working on my books.
Because you'd worked on a couple of them at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah, and I work on those at night.
Yep.
I'd come home from work. I'd spend some time with the boys and Christy, and they'd go to bed, and I would come up here in the studio and work starting at like 10 o'clock, and I would work till midnight or 1, and did this for years. I did this for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years at least. And it was a combination of factors. It was just getting to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how much longer I can keep up the dual role. I mean, it took a lot of energy. It took a lot of sacrifice. And it took a lot of sleep too. I was so exhausted every day. I also felt like I was just like so many of us when we work at the same job for many years, it's like, you know what? I think I got a great feel. I've had a great experience. I think it's just time to try something new. And I had built up enough of an audience, I thought, with the books that had been coming out.
Take the leap.
Yeah, let's take a shot. Let's go for it. And I give my wife, Christy, all the credit for, letting me do this and being brave enough and flexible enough and employed enough to have the the health benefits. She's a librarian at a nearby school district.
It's all about the health benefits.
I know. Which is not to say she doesn't love her job. I mean, she loves her job, but
Right.
It is nice to have someone who has the full-time job so that we have the health benefits, because that is
Gives you a little bit of security there.
a little bit. Yeah. I did it. I made the leap about 3 years ago. I haven't looked back. Love it. We're getting old, man. It's like, it's hard to keep track of. I even forget how old I am. I just tell people I'm 30.
It's easy to remember that way.
It's easy to remember.
I will say this. So we have 3 of your books.
Thank you.
We have Hugo and Miles, which is very dog-eared at this point.
Appreciate that.
Mystery Ride,
Oh, a classic.
a classic, both of which are signed, and I've actually brought one with me today to get signed.
I would be happy
It
to.
was one, listeners are going to love this story. We were in Spokane, Washington, of all places, and we went through this little mall, this inside mall in downtown Spokane, and they had one of those, like, not the main made store,
Yeah.
but like a local Washington Spokane store.
Neat.
Of all things, on the shelf, they have The Boy Who Cried Bigfoot. And I'm looking at this book going, this is a cute book. And then I look at the author and I'm like, no way.
You seriously
It's
didn't know it was me?
Scott Magoon.
That is so funny.
I didn't know it was you. And I'm like, this is great.
That's
so, of course, we bought the book.
funny. Thank you.
And
I
it's
didn't-
become another favorite of ours. And
That is so funny. I didn't realize it was mine. What kind of fan are you?
I know, really. Seriously. And of course, then once we got home, we had to go to Barnes & Noble and hunt down all the Scott Magoon books.
Of which there were 0 at Barnes & Noble. Also available, my books at your local independent bookstore. You should mention that.
Yes.
Support your local indie.
I don't
Very
have too many
important.
of those up there.
Oh, is that right?
It means he's-
What about Mr. Paperback? They still around?
Mr. Paperback is long gone.
Ah, really?
Boy, you are bringing us back.
I think we should
I
bring
spent
back
many
Mr.
an hour at the Mr.
Me
Paperback
too.
in Skowhegan.
Oh my God, me too. Really?
Yeah.
We might have been there at the same time.
It could have been.
Oh,
We
man.
had to go to Boston to meet.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? That's so, we have friends in common.
We do. We have a lot of friends. All right, so we'll move out of work because you
Whatever
do
you want.
pretty well. I want to be respectful of your time, but I am going to get into some other things.
Okay.
What do you do in your spare time? Do you have any spare time?
Oh, gosh. I do have some. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Well, here it is. I know I said it was July, but it's actually February. I ski. Not as much as I want to. We're hopefully going to get up. We go up to Sunapee a good deal.
Yep.
Warva Valley. Growing up in
Sunday River and all?
Sunday River. We tried to, I would love to get up to Sugarloaf more. That's really where in Skowhegan, I mean, that was our big go-to. That
Yeah, that's
Eaton,
closest.
Eaton Mountain, of
Yeah.
course, was just great as well. Night skiing over there was fun. I do like skiing, and that's something that we have found as a family is fun to do together. We all ski together, go down the hills together for the most part during the day. I mean, towards the end of the day, the boys get tired, but
I have another friend who does that with his family.
Yeah.
And they found that they love it.
Yeah.
They all do it together and they love it.
It's-
if you can find an activity
I
with
know.
your family to do together,
I know.
that's great.
And it's outside and it's
Yep.
good exercise and the scenery is amazing and it's not cheap. That's the only thing, it's just not, it's gotten so expensive.
And even if you live there, I mean, even a season pass is,
I know.
you know.
Oh man, we had the best deal. We had these seasons passes made available to us at Skowhegan High School. I think Sugarloaf, it must have been like a community outreach or something. And seriously, we got season passes at Sugarloaf at Skowhegan Area High School for $100.
Oh my
$100.
God. What year was that?
1822. No, it was, I don't know, man, when we were in high school, 1988-ish, 1989.
Late 80s.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say late 80s.
All
And go
right.
from
That was a good time. That was a good era.
That's
The
awesome.
music was good.
So obviously you still read.
I read
are you
a lot.
as voracious a reader as you used to be?
I am, but thanks to audiobooks. In my studio, I draw a great deal, obviously, on my computer. All my work is digitally created, by the way, on a computer. But I'll put on an audiobook and just sit there and listen to audiobook after audiobook after audiobook.
What are you currently listening to?
I'm listening to, it's a John Meacham book, and it's about, I wrote down the title because, of course, you don't sit there and open up the cover every time.
Right.
So it's called The Soul of America by John Meacham. And it's about how he's tried to make an argument that our current political climate, our current political situation, sure, is specific to now, but there are enough recurring themes, enough echoes with what's happening now to
It's a pattern. It repeats
what's happened in the
itself throughout
pattern, what's happened in the past is happening now. Obviously, different players, different characters. But we got through that period by way of various, finding our way. He sort of seeks to, which I appreciate, interject a very thoughtful, careful, well-reasoned, historically accurate argument, if you will, into sort of putting it all in perspective where we are now as a country, which I greatly appreciate because, I won't lie to you, it's it's troubling what's going on out in the world. So really appreciate that book. That's been a great listen, great read. Yeah.
Music. What's on your iPod right now?
I reached this point where I realized, I really don't mind what genre it is or what kind of music it is. As long as it's a good tune, I don't care. Put it on. So I've been listening to nutty 70s stuff, yacht rock. I'll jump ahead to the 80s stuff. I'll listen to some 90s stuff. I'm still listening to my jazz albums, vocals.
Right. Very much into jazz.
I love the jazz.
Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah, Harry Connick Jr. was big back then, but since discovered the other, amazing musicians, Charlie Parker and John Coltrane and Miles Davis, of course, many others.
My oldest has introduced me to Panic at the Disco.
Oh yeah, I see the
they
shirt.
They have some good tunes.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, it is good.
Nice. Oh gosh, I really should have come up with a list because
it's okay. You actually are the reason that I am interested in. Mark Cohn.
Oh yeah, what happened to Mark?
I know. He did 3 albums and he's done.
Yeah.
But that was, to this day, when I hear Walking in Memphis, I think of Summer in Boston.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
That was a great tune. Yeah. I've tried to be open to anything, listen to anything. I've even broken down and started listening to some country music. Some of that is all right.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
My kids would say otherwise.
No, it's not that bad. It has its moments. Maybe I'm just mellowing out. Classical, listening to some classical stuff all over the place. I love music.
Who do you admire?
There's so many people. I was thinking about this question. There's so many people throughout history that are worth our admiration, and we just don't know enough about them. And Barack Obama comes to mind right off the top. I love him. Michelle Obama comes to mind right off the top. Bobby Kennedy comes to mind. Martin Luther King. My parents. My brothers. My family. My wife. Is that too general? Is that not specific enough?
Plenty of people.
Do you want to know why, or should we move on?
Who would you most like to meet?
Oh, we are moving on.
We moved there, have we?
You mean and these are people that are alive?
Sure.
Yeah.
Either or.
Oh my gosh. I've met so many amazing people in the industry, in the children's book industry. That's been incredible. Well, I would love to meet Barack and Michelle Obama. I think that would be amazing. I think they'd just be wonderful people to talk to. Just say, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for your service. I think you'd be funny, smart, stylish. Is that bad?
Honestly, there's a lot of people that, whether I agree with them or not, I would like to meet.
Yeah,
various people from throughout history
who
have been in the situation for whatever reason, and just said, you know what, you were there, you did the job, you didn't complain. Especially presidents. I mean, there's been very few presidents I've actually admired throughout the years. But I would still want to meet them just because of the nature of them being in the
100%.
office and the job. And
100%. Even candidates, too, I think would be so interesting to talk about all that they saw and talked about and promised and wanted to do and what they have done since or, what they did before. There's just you're at a level of life when you reach that arena that, you're going to have some built-in stories and to tell.
What is your most embarrassing moment?
Oh my God. Doing this podcast, Scott. No, I don't know. Gosh, there have been so many.
There's got to be a video we made at Northeastern that's got to be embarrassing.
Oh my God. Do I dare bring up the video of you?
There is a video of Duct Tape Man out there, I will say.
Yes. That would probably be pretty embarrassing. But no, that would be, no. People would dig that. It was funny.
It
Right?
was funny.
Yeah. It was essentially me running around as duct tape man in the back alleys of Hemingway Street. Right?
Yeah. I vaguely remember you wearing a turtleneck and us wrapping you in duct tape.
Yeah.
And I think we almost suffocated you because you couldn't expand your lungs.
I couldn't take a deep breath. I didn't figure out that I would need to actually breathe in this thing that you were putting me in. So like I start exerting myself.
You start running down the street and all of a sudden you collapse.
Fortunately, the duct tape protected me as I skidded down the street. You know what else was funny is that we ran out of duct tape, being the poor college students that we were. We ran out of duct tape at like mid-thigh. So like my lower legs just had jeans.
You could only shoot from like the knee up.
That's right. I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're going back a few years.
Oh man, it was so funny.
Wow, we've really gone off the rails.
We have gone off the rails. You were in a couple of our movies.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of good ones. I got taken out by the Terminator in one.
Oh yeah.
I think I was behind the camera on duct tape.
It seemed. I think you were.
I wasn't in front.
No, but there was one. It seemed like the theme of like every single one of our videos was that there was an alien on board our ship. It's like every video was a conference. Started with a conference. Like there's an alien on board the ship. And that's it. It would just go from there. And it would involve people systematically being wiped out by this unseen alien.
Yes.
It was like it was Predator, is essentially what it was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what brings you joy?
Doing this podcast. No. Oh man. Oh, seeing my family happy, seeing my boys happy, seeing my boys excel, seeing them do what they want to do. Seeing my wife doing what she wants to do, being together with them. It doesn't get much more happy than that for me.
One thing I did want to touch on, which I learned a little bit more about, I'd forgotten over the last few years.
Okay.
But I learned a little bit more about talking about you, if you're willing to talk about it. I had forgotten that you were at the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing.
Yes, I was
there.
there.
You were in between the bombs that went off.
I was, yes. I ran that year. I had run the year before for Dana-Farber Cancer Research. Mm-hmm. Had a tremendous experience. It was just one of those days that you look back on. It was like a graduation or a wedding. It's just one of those days that everything went so well. You know, my family was there to congratulate me all along the course. I raised a ton of money for Dana-Farber. Mm-hmm. They were amazing. That organization is just world class. So working for them was tremendous. Just a very positive experience, except for one thing. And that was, it was hotter than Hades that day. It was probably pushing 90 degrees in Framingham. Because it's in April, there were no leaves on the trees to shade.
I remember that year. People were passing out left and right.
God, it was hot.
You were hit.
So my time was much slower than I was hoping. And I trained my butt off for that year. I mean, we worked really hard as a team to train for the marathon. So that following year, 2013, comes, and I wasn't officially going to run it. But then I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was saying, you know, if you wanted to do it, I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. And long story short, against my better judgment, entered the race as a bandit. I just kind of jumped in. And for years, this has been a tradition, and obviously less so now, if at all now. But for years and years, people would bandit the Boston Marathon. In fact, to the point where when you would start the race, you would have the official entrance at the front by the start line. The organizers would pull a rope across behind the last official entrant, and behind that rope would all the bandits would line up. So you could actually run this thing if you just wanted to run it. So that's what I did. I just jumped in that year and just ran it. And I had been running, you know, a good deal over the course of the winter. So I was in decent shape. Beautiful day, much better day that day. It was probably 50s, just a gorgeous day. I was killing it. I was getting the time of my life. I was way ahead of my pace for the previous year. Saw my family at the Newton Firehouse. About an hour after that, I was coming down Boylston Street, which is the last, the last stretch there. And I'm looking down at the throngs of people and hearing the cheers in my ears, and get past that Apple store that you and I stopped at, get towards Lord and Taylor, and the first bomb goes off in front of me. You know, I'm so tired at this point. I'm like, at first I thought it was the Jumbotron screen that had exploded or short-circuited, because they have a huge Jumbotron down there for the spectators in the bleachers. This is where your mind goes at this point. You're just like, eh. But as the debris started to come down, and you could see that it was no Jumbotron short circuit, I remember turning to the guy next to me and just saying, that's not good. What's going on? And then just then as I stopped, the second one went off behind me, probably like 50, 60 feet behind me. And I felt the blast on my, the concussion on my back, and my ears started ringing. You just have that sense that something's wrong. What is going on? And then people started screaming. It became bedlam. It was especially scary because my family was there as well. They were right up. I didn't know exactly where, which is even scarier. They were just I knew they were ahead of me somewhere on the course between me and the finish line. So I started to panic, where are they? What's going on? Fortunately, within a minute or two of this, Christy called me on the phone to say that they were fine. And we agreed on a mutual meeting point, and we met up, shaken, unhurt, unlike so many other people, unfortunately, that day. But gosh, what a day that was. It was rough. In the aftermath, I really struggled with PTSD. And
I was going to say, how did that affect you?
Oh my gosh. Well, it affected each of us, all four of us, my boys and Christy, in very specific and individual ways. My youngest son wasn't sleeping well for months. My oldest son couldn't be left alone. And they were like 8 and 6 at the time. So they were very impressionable at that time. And so I really struggled with, why was I there? Why was my family there? Why did I feel like necessary to run that darn race? I shouldn't have even been there. This is what happens when you break the rules. All those things that are so silly.
All the second guessing.
I finally, thankfully, with professional help, talking about it, I got past it. Always thought that it would be, or I thought it would always just be a meaningless, pointless, dumb experience that, just would encourage me to never break the rules again and just be, straight and narrow. And then, fast forward to 2016, and I get that phone call from Ann Stott at Candlewick Press.
I was going to say this. This was almost like a little bit of therapy to.
Oh, absolutely was. Yeah.
To take it. We're talking about Rescue and Jessica now.
Yeah, it was that publisher, Candlewick Press, that I worked for years ago. I'd kept in touch with, and they knew that I ran that day, and they had just gotten a manuscript signed up by these husband and wife author team that had written a book about their experience with their service dog. That the wife, her name is Jessica Kensky, had taken on a service dog in her life, and as a result of the injuries she sustained in the bombing, and she wanted to write a picture book about her experience with this with the dog. Rescue is his name. So they wrote this great manuscript. Candlewick signed it up, and they needed an illustrator, and Candlewick was good enough to turn around and ask me to give a go at it.
That's fantastic.
It was fantastic.
Linked you up with somebody who had this experience, and you had this experience.
It was in so many ways, not least of which I had never really reached out to the Boston Marathon bombing survivors community. I just kind of said, I was lucky enough to kind of get out of there, and I know a lot of people who have had similar experiences have reached out, but I just never did. To have those two, I don't know if you know anything about them, but they're just, what you see is what you get with them. They're the most genuine, positive, warm, kind. I mean, all the best adjectives you can give people. For them to be the emissaries for me to this community was the universe winking, saying, it's all right. It's all good. You're good. You're doing what you need to be doing. You're going to do this book, whether you know it or not, and it's going to help people in untold ways. I did some sample drawings for the book. Candlewick loved them. Patrick and Jessica loved them. And it truly was therapy. It was tough seeing the first drawings coming up at me, seeing Jessica with Rescue and seeing Jessica in the hospital, the character in the hospital, and knowing that these scenes that I was doing had to be done based on truth. I had reference photos. They were good enough to send me snippets, videos, photos from their life, from their recovery, very personal moments that they were good enough to share with me. That reaffirmed, how lucky I was and my family was in that experience, how lucky I was to be helping them heal by getting this book out into the world. It was so ultimately positive that I couldn't get too down on it, and for any stretch of time. Anytime I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so sad, the positive would come flooding back, and I just soldiered on, powered on through it. And it was probably thanks to them, thanks to Candlewick, and thanks to support my family gave me while I was working on it. It's probably the best experience I've had working on a book. Just
a quick side question on how does your creative process work? How do you just draw and see what comes up?
Yeah, pretty much. Unless I need a lot of reference material, like Rescue and Jessica. Yep. Like I said, I had tons. Thanks to Patrick and Jessica for tons of references. Or historical books like The Luck of the Loch Ness Monster, which is set back at the early 20th century. There's some research there, but for the most part, I'll just start sketching stuff out, see where it goes, and fortunately, because I work digitally, I'm able to kind of experiment and try things very rapidly and either keep things, throw things out, modify things, try several versions of one thing very quickly. I think working digitally suits my temperament really well. And I wish I had it when I was working on Duct Tape Man, the comic strip, because it would have been so much more encouraging. And I gave up drawing after Duct Tape Man for a couple of years because it was so frustrating. But maybe that was part of the journey. Maybe that's what I needed to do to get where I am, I guess. But I love working digitally. It's been great.
So I'm going to transition into
Yeah.
some of the later questions because we
Yeah.
need to start wrapping up. What are the most important lessons you've learned in life?
I'm still learning this, but patience is so important. I just tend to be a bit of a hothead when it comes to things, and learning to have everything happen in due course in its own time has been an important lesson for me. And I think seeing other illustrators and authors, this is true for anyone in any industry, when they see others excel and do great things in their industry, you can feel left behind. You can feel like, am I not doing something right? But the truth is you just have to have patience. You can't, that's another lesson I've learned too. You can't judge your timeline against anyone else's. Everyone's on their own timeline. Don't compare. It's so hard with social media around and kind of transparency in other people's lives, but it's so true. You cannot compare. Just working hard. Don't give up. Just keep going. I know, and that kind of ties into what I was saying before. You seeing other people excel. Well, they're excelling because they didn't give up, and they kept on. And one thing I've learned with the Rescue and Jessica book in particular is how much better we are when we work together as a team. I mean, that comes across in the theme of the book. With Rescue and Jessica, her service dog, they are better together as a team. Each needs the other. But even working with Patrick and Jessica and the whole team at Candlewick on that book in particular, really cemented for me how much more powerful, a book team can be when they work together to promote the book, to talk about the book, to make the book.
It really does take a team to make a book.
Well, that's so true. It's easy to want to try to be the superstar for anything you do in life, but if you just sit back and let other people kind of help you along and you help them along, it's that much sweeter when you reach the heights. And gosh, we learned that with Rescue and Jessica.
Sounds like my next question was going to be, what lessons have you learned from your relationships?
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's one of them right there.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And of course I learned that with Christy too, my wife as well. Just being there with her and being a partner with her, seeing what she's doing in her life and acknowledging what she's doing in her life and appreciating all the great things that she does makes her want to appreciate all the great things that I do. And just learning that give and take it's been wonderful, but it's easy to forget sometimes that that's what it takes to maintain a good, healthy and fun, forward moving relationship is just, mutual understanding, appreciation. I guess I say all this because I feel like I tend to feel like I can do it all myself, and I want to do it all myself. I don't want to be a bother to anybody. I just want to sit here and just do my thing. But it's so much better when you work with other people, Yeah. It really is. And it's also about finding a balance too. I mean, I can still work by myself, and I do for the most part during the day, but balance it with working with other people. That's something I'm working on too.
What do you hope people will say about you at your funeral?
Oh gosh, that I wrote down because, oh man, I don't know. At that point, does it matter? I'm stone cold dead anyways. Oh gosh, I guess just that he cared about other people and he was empathetic to other people, smart, funny. He made me laugh a lot. He made me think about stuff I never thought about. He made me see things in ways I didn't see things before. Turned me on to some good music. Turned me on to some bad music.
I don't remember any bad music. I remember Sonic the Hedgehog. Something about
oh my
that.
gosh, we played so much Sega Genesis.
Sega Genesis. If this was to be our very last conversation.
And it may very well be.
What words of wisdom would you want to pass on?
Depending on how this conversation goes. Be brave. So much keeps us back. Fear keeps us back so much.
Yeah.
And keeps us from truly enjoying life, from truly enjoying relationships, trying new things, whatever you want to call it. If you're just brave, if you just give things a try, go out of your comfort zone. And I need to follow my advice as well. I'm not saying that I'm, a super brave guy, but
Nobody's there yet.
Nobody's there yet. Just be brave.
So now I have my rapid fire questions.
These are the James Lipton.
The lightning round, yes.
Okay. All right.
I love James Lipton.
I do too.
What is your favorite word?
Hello. I think it's a great word because you've just met someone. Hello. It always means you're engaged with the person you're just encountering. All right. Next one. Number 2.
What is your least favorite word?
Sewage.
Sewage. Okay. There's never a good sentence that sewage is.
Sewage.
What sound do you love?
Kids laughing, clapping. I go on school visits, and that to me is a battery recharge. Seeing them reacting to my books with laughs and clapping.
What's the best comment you've ever gotten from a kid who has been at one of these visits that you've done? There's got to be one that stands out.
Well, I think with Rescue and Jessica, seeing people with disabilities reacting to this book like, oh, you're seeing me. You know, you're seeing my life, and I'm in a book. That's why we set out to make that book. I don't think I've ever had that kind of visceral, life-affirming reaction to anything I've done before, and that's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, a laugh to one of my books is plenty. I mean, if someone gets a kick out of a line or a drawing, that's huge. But seeing the reaction to Rescue and Jessica, particularly people with disabilities who have seen it and reacted to it positively, it's absolutely wonderful.
What sound do you hate?
People crunching, people eating. The sound of people. Someone else said this too a couple podcasts back.
Been a couple people.
I think it's a DNA thing.
I remember this in school. We would be eating in the common room, and you'd be like, "Stop eating! Just stop!"
Yeah. Well, we remember this. We got pizza every night.
You're eating too loud. I'd never heard of such a thing.
Yeah. Well, every night at midnight we would call Domino's. Remember? And we get the za. Remember this?
Oh, we'd get Cappies.
And Cappies as well.
Cappies and Domino's.
But Sean would call for Domino's and he would pay for it. I'm like, what are you, nuts? Every night. At like midnight. Oh, and we were eating like bacon pizza at midnight. Anyway, people crunching.
What is your favorite curse word?
Well, here, I'm not going to, you don't have to bleep it.
You can. I've already warned her.
No, you don't have to bleep it. I'm going to say it backwards so people can figure it out based on how I say it backwards. All right. I have two. One is cuff. And the other one is Tish. Play the tape backwards, and you'll decode the mystery.
What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
Oh, wow. There are so many. Historian, I think, would be really fun. Just doing a ton of research on stuff.
I totally see you being a nerdy book type.
I think that would be so fun. I don't know what kind of history exactly, but I would find my way. Archaeologist would be really neat. Singer, actor.
Well, you've already been kind of a low-budget actor.
And we didn't even talk about Lakewood.
We didn't even talk about Lakewood.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Lakewood.
Well, I'll have to come back and we'll do that.
Episode 2. That's
episode
right.
2.
Right.
What profession would you not like to do?
Scientist. Completely appreciate scientists and what they do, and they're absolutely vital. But I would no sooner want to do math and science. I mean, it's just not my...
Does it go along with the patience thing?
It goes along with math. I'm just not a math, but I'm horrible at math. And I completely appreciate people who are. It's just not me.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you show up?
You are right about everything. Why did no one see what you were talking about? Get in here. There's some people here who want to say hello. Most of your family or friends. You're also welcome to sit in on your statistics booth. This is a dream of mine, that when you get to heaven, you get to any stat you want to see, you could look up and you would get it. So, for example, how many bugs did I inadvertently eat in my life? How many times did I give my son a hug? How many miles did I drive?
Those stats are going to be available.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Regardless.
Wouldn't that be amazing just to have at the end of your life a complete, utter, and like stuff you could never track? Like how many times did I, breathe in and out? I'm not that's fascinating.
You sneezed.
How many times did I?
27 times.
Right. How many times did someone flip me off that I didn't know about? Oh my gosh, that many times. Scott Malevsky's on the list?
Well, he's got like 12.
He's got like 12. They're all doing the podcast that we did.
Scott, thank you very much.
Chuck/Scott.
This has been a lot of fun. We don't have sponsors. We promote local charities. This week's episode features Needs. Needs trains and provides service dogs for people with disabilities, such as post-traumatic stress disorder and autism, and provides therapeutic assistance for people in many different settings. Founded in 1976, it has trained over 1,800 service dogs and is the oldest continued hearing dog program in the United States. To get more information or to get involved, please visit needs.org. That's NEADS.org.
Welcome home to me.
This podcast was created and edited by Scott Malevsky. Thanks to our guest this week, and a special thanks to Ellis Paul for the use of his song, Welcome Home to Maine. You can find his CDs, music, and touring schedule at ellispaul.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and iTunes. For more content and bios, visit www.interviewswithme.com. Thanks for listening, and we hope you join us next time.